suppose it is very close to us, and in a way I think sometimes we can feel that same kind of pain, but they did survive, our parents. We are here to tell their tale. They told us their story, and it's really important to sort of be in the same place and witness it as they saw it.
I think it's been a lot more emotional than I thought it would be, I'm half looking forward and half apprehensive about going now to the Theresienstadt, because I know that was the place where he was liberated from, and I've never been there before. But I'm going with my children as well, and again, it's an important act of defiance, I think.
We have a connection, and today we come from all over the world, from all different parts of the world, different lives, different perspective, different politics, but we share this one unique experience, and there's a sense of family and commitment to remembering and to celebrating life.
I'm the son of Stanley Full, formerly Salek Falanoa. He was a survivor and one of the boys. He started his experience in Warsaw, in the Warsaw Ghetto, and then after the Warsaw Uprising was taken with his mother to Majdanek. Then he went to the work camp, Stasnicy Kamienna, and then on to Buchenwald. From Buchenwald, he travelled by train to Theresienstadt, and that he always regarded as the most horrific time of his wartime experiences. They were for several weeks kept in open cattle trucks in freezing cold conditions with very, very little to eat, very little to drink, and people were dying around him. He was very, very fortunate to survive that journey and was saved by another one of the boys, Joe Rentz, and Michael and Bernice Rentz are here today. And we're going to Theresienstadt, where my father and Joe were eventually released by the Russian army after the Germans had deserted their posts, and feel very fortunate to be here with other survivors and their families, and it's a very emotional and wonderful experience that so many survived and so many have flourished in the second and third generations, and it's a very uplifting experience, and I'm very pleased and privileged to be here today.
My father's was Joe Rentz, one of the boys, the sole survivor from his family, one of 5 siblings. So his journey started in Krakow, just outside Krakow. He was born in Rezhnov, and his journey of captivity started in 1942, Plaszow work camp, and then from Plaszow he went to a place called Ostrowicz, from Ostrowicz down to Auschwitz. From Auschwitz in 1943 he was moved from Auschwitz to Sachsenhausen near Berlin, from there to Dachau, from Dachau to Buchenwald, and then from 1945 from Buchenwald on that horrific train journey with Stanley to Theresienstadt. Having survived those 3 years, he then travelled with the boys on the first flight, I think in August 1945, over to Windermere, and from there then left there, went down to London, spent time in London at hostels in London, and I think by 1949, 1950, he then travelled down to Brighton, where he then settled down, became a manufacturer. He learnt the tailoring trade when he was in London. Spent a lot of time also, spent most evenings going to the Yiddish theatre in Whitechapel. But got a job with a tailor in London, learnt the tailoring trade, moved down to Brighton and set up his own tailoring business, manufacturing ladies' coats and suits, and marrying my mother, and became the father of three, me and my two sisters, and sadly he passed away in February 2016, but after celebrating his diamond wedding anniversary. Lucky to be here. Okay. I'm feeling good about it. I remember my father, like many survivors, spoke very little of his experiences and the horrors that they witnessed. So for me, in a way, that this journey really started trying to stitch together all of everything he went through really since he's passed away. So since my father never wanted me to visit any camps while he was alive, which was something that I respected. So my trip to Auschwitz happened a few weeks after he passed. My trip to Sachsenhausen was last year, and now this trip to Theresienstadt is probably for me the last piece to have a look at. That this is where he was before he arrived in England.
I can only imagine that was a period that must be unreal time for him, having suffered for 6 years and lost his family and all the experiences he had, the same as everybody else. To now be with a bunch of boys who've been through that, and they knew imminently they're going to be airlifted to Britain, to a new life, to this fantastic new place where they will be looked after and educated and everything else. So there must have been an unreal time for him. And so sort of now see the place where he was when he stayed, when he had those feelings, is going to be very special. So I'm Jerome Meltzes and my mother Miriam, which is reminiscing about my father, my mother's husband, Jack Meltzes, one of the boys. There's a story, he told many stories. Later in his life, he told many stories about his journey on the way, eventually ended up in Prague. But the one story that we were just talking about now was he worked in a munitions factory. He worked in a few, and I'm not sure this happened in Czestochowa or in Demlin Arena. And one of the things that really bothered my father, and he was 12 years old, this is a 12-year-old boy working day, how many hours a day, 18, 20 hours a day on manufacturing bullets. And one of the things he hated was the lack of hygiene. He had this strong sense of self-respect and dignity, even at 12 years old. I can't get my 12-year-old to go and have a bath, but here's my father, who just hates the fact he can't bath. And in the bullet factory, they had a special small bath they used to cleanse the bullets once they were made, to get the grit and the grease off them, so they were fit to be fired. And at one point he goes, you know what, I can't stand this. And he tells the guys working with him, I'm going to have a bath myself in this bath, pass me the hose. And they get a hold on hot water hoses, and he took off his clothes, he got in the bath, having filled it with warm water, and he starts scrubbing himself and cleaning himself. And they say, watch out, the guard comes past, you're in trouble. And lo and behold, my father's washing himself, looking around, being as quick as possible, and he looks up and one of the guards is there holding a Luger straight at his face. And my dad's thinking, that's it, I'm done, because they're going to take me out and shoot me. So the guard obviously has let's say a playfulness, if you use that word about the situation, picks up the hose with the cold water and starts filling the bath with cold water, and the water gets colder and colder and colder. My father's sitting there freezing and shivering away, and he knows that what's he going to do? If he stays in the bath, he's going to freeze. If he makes a break for it, he's going to get shot. So whether this was intended or not, there was a noise made behind the guard's head, and he turned round for a fraction of a second, and my father bolted from the bath, ran off, no clothes on, and hid behind some ammunition boxes which are stacked 3 or 4 high in the corner of the factory. And he hid there and moved around so the guard couldn't find him. The guard went round shouting, come out, couldn't find him. It gave up in the end. My father stayed there until it was later on, came out again, found his clothes, found his shoes, and snuck back in and joined the rest of the group. And that's one small story about my father. The next day, my father was walking. The thing he needed to do was avoid this guard, but the guard saw him, could have called him out. My father's convinced that the guard did recognise him, but just gave him a wink and let him carry on, as if to say, fair dues, as in, you took a risk, you feel more like a mensch now, and you got away from me, I'm going to leave it.
For us, it's we've been travelling around following my father and Noah's grandfather's story, And so for us, this is actually close to the end of the journey that he'd had before he came to Britain.
Well, we were just learning about the better conditions in Theresienstadt, and even though it was still very bad, it was better than all the other concentration camps.